Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blending smooth like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers! Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Living loud, think it proud, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out, all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
What is going on, everybody? We're back. Well, all right, that's gonna be a rough start. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Spartan SQ Network. I am your host, Ghost or Sparta, also known as Peter. So, we have a doozy show planned for you guys tonight. I'm waiting for the guys to come in, but before we go in it, I hate to start a show like this, but last night, I was helping a buddy of mine stream, and we got some bad news last night. The legend, George Foreman passed. You might hate him, you might love him. He was a icon in the boxing world. If you didn't know him as a boxer, you probably know him as the Foreman Grill Man. Funny story on that, really fast. Was, hey Mariano, what is going on? When the idea was pitched to him, it wasn't pitched only to him at first. It was actually pitched to Hogan first, Hulk Hogan. And it was communication between him and his wife or something like that, his current wife at the time, his ex-wife now. So he lost that huge opportunity to make tons of money. But you know him as the Foreman Grill Man. You know him as a boxer. He was what he was. I know a few people who actually met him, and he said the way he acted on TV was who he was. So, only thing I can say is we lost a legend, and prayers and thoughts go to his family. But John Cena. So when I scheduled this show originally, I didn't do it actually on this. If you watch, see the archives, I had this planned out for months in advance. And it's funny how this planned out like this, because was it a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, he turned heel for the second time in his career. Yes, I said it right. Second time in his career. People forget when he first came on WWE, He debuted as the heel, as this guy as a wrestler, like was supposed to replace Kurt Angle actually originally. Uh, but he almost got released, and they were on a bus, and they were freestyling, and Stephanie Man. So shit, this guy's actually pretty fucking good. And she gave him the idea, like, why don't you do this on a show? And he just went with it. That little inspiration saved his career. Beyond saving. To the point he became the face of the company. I guys gotta remember, we had Hogan at one point. Then we had Stone Cold. They tried push no wonder, my bad guys. Ultimate Warrior, but that never worked. The guy was impossible to work with. But you had, like I said, Hogan. You got Stone Cold. Then you had The Rock. Was it the other way around? My order might be off a little bit. John Cena. Now you have Roman Reigns is the babyface. The face of the company. People might say he's good. Some people say he's bad. I'm talking about John Cena, of course. Some people say it was overdone with him. But you cannot take away his hard work. All the work he's put into the company. And he haven't said it. It's himself. He was making comments out knowing about The Rock. At one point, those guys really hated each other. Legit hated each other. Because they were talking shit to each other. Legitimately. Because The Rock, actually not, Cena did not understand what The Rock was trying to build and grow. And he pretty much, I gotta put this, he got in his shoes. He became The Rock in a way, being an actor, doing his stuff. And he put his own words. Think about it. Someone's talking shit. Oh, you've got the company, this and that. All of a sudden, he's doing the same fucking thing. The only difference between those two now is very simple. The Rock never had a retirement match or a retirement tour versus, Cena. He's walking away completely. Rock pops his head here and there. Now that he's chairman, was it? He's part of the board. No, I know. That's why his new title is the final boss. And him turning couldn't be at the best time ever. Nobody saw that yet. When he turned, hey Eric, what is going on? There is my wrestling guru. So nobody saw him going to turn for the second time. I really thought he would ever turn face again. And he did. He turned face. He turned heel. I did not expect Cena will ever turn heel again. I thought Cena was always going to be a good guy, no matter what, kind of like never give up, the time is now, you don't see me. I'm like the guy, you don't see me. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, I know. But that is the difference between The Rock and him. He had his little Fruity Pebbles thing, like, some people say. And and we got my man is in the house. And he says, I've been liking Vince by no chance if that, well, what you he had a good theme song. You gotta give him credit. He had a very, very good theme song back then. You gotta give him credit. Vince McMahon, he listen. Hate him or love the guy. I know Eric hates his living, breathing guts. But you cannot take one thing away from the guy. Some people say he destroyed the wrestling business. I'll give you that. Some people said he did better the wrestling business. Some people say he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He just fell into it. But what I will say, he did transform wrestling. You gotta give him credit for that. The way he did everything. Like, for example, merging WCW and WWE. He was the person who saw that. He, brought back. I can say brought back because it kind of failed. The not ECU. What was it called? ECW. But he saw potential what it was. But you had to impress him. That's the thing. So Wally's saying so far his turn is average. And it is, but it's too early to tell because he just literally just happened. He's only 2 weeks into it. So you gotta give it a little more time to marinate. Give it like another couple more weeks to see if he's gonna do anything with him. And as I was saying, underrated. Yeah, Robert Williams was very underrated. I can't like he was one of my favorites. But I don't think we're ever going to see him at least in a WWE ring anytime soon because of the Welling policy. He's a known hate it or love it. He loves his pot. He's a big pothead. And you cannot take that away from him. He's one of those guys that who will say he will always smoke. And that's you see him around WWE in events, audience at a Hall of Fame, but I don't think he will ever pass the drug screening to get into the ring again. And I stumbled into an interview recently with him. With oh man, let me see if I can find the guy who does it. Give me a second, guys, because he's actually very very good at his stuff. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Here you are. What's this guy's name? Oh no, it's not gonna be that. Where are you? I know you're here somewhere. I've seen it already. Give me a second, guys. We gotta find him. Where are? It's funny when I'm trying to find something, I cannot find it. That is the most annoying thing in the world. Where is it? Nowhere to be found. Huh. Funny. So this guy, he does a lot of interviews with wrestlers. And here it is. Chris Villis. He does a lot of interviews with guys. And Robbie said it on his podcast slash interview style he does. He does not need retirement match because he already, in his eyes, he had the best. He still can wrestle as well. Excuse me, as well as anybody right now, and can probably out wrestle most of the guys. And that is some bold move to say, because How is Rob Van Dam? I'm actually curious now. I'm not even sure because I'm he's 54. I doubt he's gonna. I know he's in great shape still. I doubt he's gonna be able to out wrestle most people. And all right, this is what Erica says. RVD going to heel mode on Mr. Anderson in TNA was one of the most victorious beatdowns I ever saw, and it was glorious. I didn't see that, to be honest with you guys. I didn't, but I take Eric's word as good. Eric is my voodoo wrestling guy. Like Eric, let me ask you a question. What do you think about John Cena? Your true, honest opinion. Because two things might happen. He's gonna be yay or whatever, or he's gonna go on a rampage in a minute. I say a second one. You know what? Let me see where the guys are at because they're running late. Guys, the link is in the chat if you guys want to join us. Just remember, camera's on. Smile for the camera. Mic's on, and everything. All right, let me see where these guys are at because I'm overrated. Whoa. That's some bold move to say, Eric. Why do you think he was overrated? Come on, give me some feedback, dude. I want to hear why do you think he's overrated? Some people think, other wrestlers are very overrated. Like a lot of like a lot of people think Ric Flair is overrated. I don't personally think that, but I think he's beyond his prime and he needs to step the fuck away from the wrestling ring because next thing you know he's gonna be pushed with a stroller in there. But that's my personal opinion. I don't think he should be any near any wrestling ring. There are a bunch of wrestlers that people think are very overrated. I want to see what Eric has to say. If I had to call one wrestler overrated, who would that be? Who? Trying to think. I'll say Ricky Steamboat. I think he was right over, and Jimmy Snuka. I think they're really overrated. I don't see anything cool about them, to be honest with you guys. They were okay, but not like, oh my god, nothing like that. They were okay. That's it. Nothing some special about them, personally. From the 80s, I would say obviously Hogan's always gonna be on top. I grew up with a guy. Andre was okay. He wasn't the greatest performer. His size gave it to him and intimidated people. Randy Savage, I don't think his moves were so special because he had limited moves. Hey, there, one of my guys. Wally, what's going on, my man?
What's going on?
So, what's your opinion about John Cena?
What can I say about Johnny Boy?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Uh, I mean, for overall his career, getting in here, I say no matter how you like it or dislike, I mean, he's the only guy in wrestling history, as far as I know, under one corporation to touch 16 titles, world titles. I mean,
That is
you can't get better than that, as far as I can tell. I mean, it's probably different somewhere else. Probably someone in New Japan probably did it. Maybe I don't know. But overall, you can't say that amongst a lot of people in America, like touch 16 titles, touch the big top world title 16 times in one corporation under one house. You can't say that about no one else. So, got to give it to Johnny Boy.
Didn't Triple H come close to his title?
Yeah. There's few people behind them, but they're not exactly 16 titles though. There's Randy Orton still right there. He's like 14. Triple H is like 13. Batista is like plus 10. Yeah, there's a few people that are in the plus 10 market, but they're not exactly like right there on the premise of 16.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and Ric Flair, I know he had two different promotions. He came what 8 times? Am I mistaken, Rick?
yeah, Rick was a combination of multiple. He's like the WCW and then some other ones mixed together.
Yeah, because he was during the what was that called? The different areas back then. I can't remember what it was called. You know what I'm talking about.
I know it was WCW. I know it was NWA. What else was
Yeah,
there?
that's what I'm talking about. The different sections. I can't remember what it was called. They have a specific name for it. My brain just froze on me. But yeah, I'm not gonna give him. I gotta give credit, Rick. He was very popular back in the day. He was the man to go after. But at this point, he still comes back a year after year, and all so often, like, dude, sooner or later they're gonna be pushing down in a wheelchair with you, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Yeah,
So, why do you think Cena's heel term is okay so far?
simple. Nah, it's really. I mean, one thing when you do a turn, you expect a lot. You expect a decent amount of things to change. It's not really. It's really the most not really good change so far. It's like okay, you come out with a shirt that's somewhat as simple as your other ones. The only thing is you're just saying the tour is coming to an end. I'm like, who cares? Like, give me something different. That's not. I didn't expect that out of heel John Cena. Like, give me something different. Like, okay, like you're speaking about how the fans were not appreciative of everything you put down and this and this and this and that. Well, okay, well, and, people are calling you a sellout and whatnot. It's like you sold like put a shirt like you sold out on me, I didn't sold out on you. Loyalty is everything, but I never had it from you, or something like that. Like
Mhm.
something to that deformity, like that formation of just on a shirt is like sell it, but don't do that. It just really was stupid.
Don't you think that's a little bit too early to say still? Because it's only been 2 weeks since his heel turn.
No, but think about it. Here's the reason why I don't. Here's the reason why I don't like it. One, you got Cody talking and saying things right without John Cena really being present after the whole attack. That's one thing. So it's like okay, Cody's making a bunch of big talk, and John Cena's nowhere to be seen. Already after the whole fiasco of him going heel, nothing. So it's like okay, you're talking, but again, it's like I rather if you made a talk after the fact Johnny Boy actually made the move, actually said something. Because at that point, it's like, okay, you get a good idea of where this is like going in framework. Like you just talking ahead of time, somewhat not always keen, give or take. I mean, granted, I mean, you could say it don't really matter. You could say it don't really matter how the starting plug of talking and all that really goes down. But this is the thing I really don't like about it, right? Because okay, you did the whole talk and all that, fine. Let's keep it from right there, right? Now Monday Raw comes in. John Cena spilled it out. He says, "This is why I said this and this and this. This is why I did what I did. This is why I sold out. Supposedly, this is why I'm moving on. And at the end of the tour, I'm now it's about me. Screw you, and everything else. Now you got Cody Rhodes come down, and he says, "Enough. This is not who I wanted to face. This is not the guy that I wanted to." Blah blah blah. But I find it funny because everything that Cody Rhodes said. Yeah, word to the wise, Cody, you're a fucking hypocrite. Because everything that John Cena is talking about, reflect that on your mirror. Reflect that on the mirror and look at yourself and look at everything you've been through in your career. The fans didn't love you either. The same freaking way. You gave them everything. Whatever happened, you end up walking away from WWE, and then you go on and go do your own thing. Next thing you know, what happens? When WWE calls you back and you try to make all these fights because the company had these names that your father created. What you do, you suck up all because they came and knocked on your door and they come and tell you come home. And then guess what? Now you come home because now what? You made yourself a little bigger star. Congratulations. Congratulations. But it's like, think about it. You still riding on everything else. All you did is a small switch of change, right? Your father was the American dream. You didn't let it be out your daddy's shadow. What happens? You would call yourself American Nightmare. It still left you like you're still in the shadows. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, if you really look at it and think about it, I'm like, it's so funny, but it's so hilarious. Like, if anyone would have bought that bit of Cody Rhodes' like speech at that point, is like, okay, I'm just gonna be honest, you're a fool. You're so stupid. Because it's only a matter of time until you do the same thing and people are gonna call you out for the same crap. So for me, a little bit, yeah.
At first, Cody, when he was first coming up, his father was still around. He wanted, be a man in his own cloth, kind of thing, and do his own thing. But after he left WWE and his father died, he realized this is his way to kind of like remember his dad's memory by taking the American Nightmare. He turned around a lot. Let's be honest. For his first run WWE to now, dude, who remembers fucking Stardust?
Yeah, of course. But that's not even just that Stardust. It's like, for instance, think about it. Early on in his career when he was just young, right?
Mm-hmm.
You turn on your mentor within Holly, right? Just to join up with Randy. Then after that, you did it. Then you sort of just starting to go into your own self. Then you betrayed Randy in a way. After that point, then you just start going into this, this ravishing Cody Rhodes in a sense, right? Taking, Allah to, ravishing Rude, right? And then after that, you're constant. Then after that, it's like, okay, now you're going to the Stardust lane because they wanted you with your brother. And then now after that, what else? Now when that ship sailed, now you're out of the company. Now you're going out there trying to build your name and everything else. And one of the most smartest plays you ever did is call yourself the American Nightmare. That's cute. That's cute. That's very cute.
So I assume you're not a Cody Rhodes fan.
I'm not saying that I'm not. I'm just saying is right now where he is in this whole thing. It's like you're not selling me squat. Like when you're a heel, find me then, because I'll be loving to see you go American Nightmare, true Cody Rhodes. Find me then, because I'll love you then. I will actually be so supportive. But until then, your whole title reign is a fluke. You're being carried along the way because of the fucking bloodline. Let's just keep it real. Let's just be honest. Without the bloodline story, you ain't got no real story to be out there talking. You ain't nobody. Mm-hmm. You ain't nobody. I don't care what no one say. Cody Rhodes ain't squat. I don't care. Oh, he's a fighting champion. Anyone could look like a fighting champion when you're just out there. But you don't got, like, none of your title reigns really was significant to nothing. Absolute crap, nothing. They feed you to the new young guy within Melo. They didn't even make a title match out of that at all. Yeah, he's the draftee, right? The first draftee of NXT. They didn't make a title run on that? Okay, cool. Funny enough. Then after that, what else? They just keep doing these dry rub title matches a little bit here and there. I mean, hey, people can feel what they feel about Roman, but at least his title matches were a little bit more decent and a little bit more interesting than Cody Rhodes. At least you almost thought he was gonna lose. Sue me if I said something. So
But don't you think Roman Reigns' title run was like dragged on way too long?
Dragged? You could say it was dragged, but I say this, right? This is how you know when you have somebody that has done something that no matter how much you like it or not, notice one thing. People say this right now, right? They dragged his title reign, right? Roman Reigns, they dragged it. But notice one thing. By the time he lost it and we into the new year, what's happening? Everyone's calling back for Roman Reigns. No one give a Fuck that Cody has won the freaking title. No one cares that Cody got his dream. Everyone's still calling back for Roman Reigns. We want Roman. It's hypocrisy. So again, this is why I sort of laugh, because like everyone's gonna sit here and say, "Oh, we're tired of this fucking bloodline story," and then next thing you know, when they finally clip it, now it's like, no, fuck this. We're wrong. We're sorry. No, give us back Roman. So it's like, again, the way I look at it, honestly, it's a pick and choose. But I mean, everyone has their whole points. I mean, I think there is definitely I'm not saying like it was not dragged. What I am gonna sit here and say is it all based upon like timing of stories and everything, that you would sit here and say, okay, there should have been a moment for this to be clipped, but then they didn't do it. So it's like, hey, you pick your shot. But I think personally, for the timing of what they did and how they did it, no, I think they did it at the right time. I think they clipped it at the right time.
So this is the thing with wrestling fans. When you do have something like the bloodline, right? It went on and on and on. And they finally clipped it right, wrong, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it got clipped. So by being clipped, now all of a sudden you go, oh, boo-hoo. We want him back. Wah. You never can make this goddamn fucking fans happy. That's when I realized. Can you agree or disagree with that?
To a degree, yeah, you can't make the fans happy. For me, I say it like this. As a fan looking at it, it's like, okay, I understand this now more than ever. Now is this. I'm happy no matter if you're a heel or a face, but it must make sense for me. Like right now, Cody, like KO, I'm very happy. Drew McIntyre, very happy. Certain people that did certain things, very happy, because they did what exactly they were still on. And I'm like, yes, just push it up. Just give it that more extra push, put it to the limit. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Get over the dang hump. But there's certain people you're not happy about, and that's how I feel about Cody. It's like, don't get me wrong, I was happy for Cody winning the title and succeeding, getting that whole family story and everything, succeeding, being able to grasp that title and say, "Daddy, I did it." I'm happy for that part. I'm not happy after the fact, because you gave him a sorry ass title run. And the thing is, like a lot of people will sit here and say, "Oh, well, Roman Reigns was a part-time wrestler." But you know what's funny though? I'm gonna say it like this: Roman Reigns' part-time wrestling was probably better than most people's full-time wrestling. Bitch,
You know what's funny? You know what's funny you say that, because even he said on a promo, yes, I'm a part-time wrestler, but I make more money than you. Think of that. How that was, I was like putting a call on the stung. I'm like, wow, he actually went there. Let me ask you a question, dude. Like, and I've been thinking about this lately with everything going on. I know it's probably never going to happen. I can't say never, because you never say never. Don't say it never in wrestling. At least no anytime soon. But would you ever like to see the Shield come back together?
That's a pick and choose. I really don't. It doesn't really like framework over my mind. And Eric, you saying a 6-man? That's actually a 3-man team. It never was a 6-man, as far as I know. It was always a 3-man.
It's always been 3-man. You know, it's a fucked up part about the Shield. I just found out recently. So remember when they first debuted, they had these skeleton masks on their faces.
I believe they did, but I think the masks were just straight up black, as far as I know. But I don't remember too much.
You might be right, but they had a mask.
Right.
So the point of those masks is to sell merchandise. And Vince make him take that shit right off. He goes, "No one can see your fucking face." He goes, "Really doesn't matter. You're taking off right before you get in the ring anyway." So,
well, yeah, but I think the reason, well, I mean, because you got to think about it, right? The idea of the Shield was a multi-layer part. So I'm thinking at the time, the face part was actually a decent, but I don't see what it is. It's called 6-man because 2 teams of 3. Yeah, but that's in a match though. That's what I'm saying. It's 3-man. Eric, it's 3-man.
So while he's right, a 6-man, or literally what he says, 6-man tag. 3-man is a 3-man. I'll
Yeah, because
look
if
it
you're
up.
focusing on just the team, then yeah, it's a 3-man team. But a 6-man, that's a 6-on-6. That's a 3-on-3 tag team match going against each other. So that's why I'm like, what do you mean by 6-man? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the lingo you used to before, but yeah, they sort of changed that lingo. But and Lesnar was the poster boy for part-time wrestling. I mean, well, I can't really say that ultimately. Well, by the time he came back, yeah, but even then, even with
Who's the
Lesnar,
poster
I
boy?
mean, I think they made the smart timing for that.
Who was the poster boy?
No, Eric, he said that Lesnar was the poster boy for part-time wrestling, pretty much Brock Lesnar. But I think at his timing, though, his was more fair game of how he was doing it, though.
Here's the thing: people give a shit for Lesnar for what he did, being part time and all that stuff. But if we get one major thing, nobody negotiated as well as he did. Think about it.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, I wouldn't even call it negotiation. I think at that point, you have to really look at it, right? It's like in the timing of Brock coming back, he was not in a lose-lose situation. It's like we all know why I left a long time ago. It was because of you. I would never have left if you just wouldn't be, that prick like you always are. So it's like Brock would never have left and do what he did. More likely, Brock would never have touched UFC if the problems weren't what it was. So, that's when I'm like, you pretty much screw yourself over. But I think at that point, the reason why I'm saying Brock was like him saying the post sport. I mean, I get it, and it's true because at that point, Brock was pretty much that whoever can beat him, you're pretty much at the golden boy status in a sense. Because beating Brock is a big like check mark on your checklist if you can at that point. Being a UFC fighter, that one gold, oh yeah, that's big, that's major.
See, that one thing that always bothered me with Lesnar, and I think it will too, is when the Undertaker, they lost a streak to Lesnar or whatever. That made no sense to me. Never made sense to me.
Okay, so do you ever remember when the Undertaker, aka his real name, which I don't remember right now, he went to a UFC event? Yeah, he went to a UFC event. He talked to Brock at that point.
Yeah, and they squared off a little bit.
Yeah. There's a reason why, because he was trying to get him back to WWE. The thing is, look, Undertaker's been trying to find a lot of people to finish his streak, and the thing is, most people that were actually supposed to do it a long time ago were supposed to do it, and they all said no. Brock, on the other hand, was willing to. Remember, I want y'all all to remember.
Undertaker said in an interview himself when he got called in the office and they said, "Oh, Lesnar, blah blah blah," and he like he kind of pushed back on that, but he had so much loyalty to Vince, he just trusts him.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
he also felt it should have been somebody to pass a torch, like Bray Wyatt, for example.
yeah, no, yeah, it was what it was. But my thing was in the grandiose of it all. Like you think about all the matches that happened beforehand, they were trying to pass it to Edge. Edge said, "No, I do not want to take it." They were trying to pass it on to a certain couple of people. They were even trying to sign the dude that was from TNA/Impact, Abyss. They was trying to sign him just to bring him to WWE and at a time and actually try to do it. There was a lot of there was a couple of different people that they was trying to get Undertaker, like get people in to beat Undertaker's reign, but no one didn't want to take it. So it was like, trust me when I say this, in most cases, Undertaker's reign would have probably been intact if no one didn't bother to want to take it. Because honestly, Undertaker could have just walked away without knowing whatever losing. But I think, in a lot of cases for certain people, that would have been like the wrong move. Because one thing's for sure is, because people say that Brock wasn't for you, right? You said that you didn't feel like it was the right move personally. I say that if it was anybody else, it was actually makes perfect sense. Because again, you time it back to when Undertaker went to UFC trying to get him back and trying to have a match, whatever. And then you think to yourself, now fast forward, here we are today. And it's like, okay, now you put two to two together and you mix that up. You didn't even really have to do too much promo for that. It's like it's already ingrained. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I remember that, and it was when Undertaker was like, I don't think he's peaked, but he was in better shape than he was lately. If you remember that.
no,
Here's this question.
Marcus, TNA slash Impact was not bought off. They're in a partnership deal where they're collaborating.
Yeah, that is right. What Wally said there, and I'm very surprised about that because WWE does not like playing along with anybody else, and you know that they do their own thing. At one point,
Instead
I
of this
thought,
was low rent staff at Glen. What? Holy hell, Eric! Oh, okay, see, that is fucked up. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that is just messed up. That is so messed up that you even say that. Because honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think personally, Abyss is his own entity. I would not call him no low rent stab of Kane. I would not do that. No, no, no. But I do get your sentiments because they did have a sort of a mirroring effect in a sense, but a totally different atmosphere of between the two, let alone the three, if you think about it, as far as because the way how they got the dark member of a their manager being so dark and greedy in that character and all that, but they weren't ultimately the same like that. I mean, granted, to him and Kane, yeah, they got the mask and everything, but still it's different in a lot of ways.
let me ask this question. Let's say John Cena was never the face of WWE. What would you think how WWE would turn out if it was a different face?
All right, so well, first things first. Yeah, that part, Eric. I remember watching Abyss is like the 2.0 of Kane mixed with Mankind. Okay, that I can actually agree with in a sense. The Kane with Mankind comparison. Okay, I can agree with that. The only small thing is though, he's a mixture in a sense, if you want to call it that. Sure, but I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I wouldn't say it's the same. It's like, yeah, the only small thing that he took from Kane is one thing and one thing only. Is just having a manager. But then that you can say the same thing about Undertaker part. The only thing is he never showed his face as Abyss. Two, the Mankind, yeah, you can say the mask and all that, great. The thumbtacks, the addiction with the thumbtacks, sure. But here's my only thing though. One, I think before anything else, I think he was the one that came with that 2x4 and then that lethal 2x4 weapon that they was allowed to even use to do wrestling. I think he came with that out first, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
that was
Um,
Mankind.
well, no, because Mankind came with a 2x4 with barbed wire. He came with a 2x4 with needles in them bitches.
That
So
was pretty cool. You know,
that
a
was
funny
it.
fun story, bro. I met him twice actually, and the first time he was sweetest guy ever, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. The second time he was even sweeter, and he was talking, and Paul was there. He goes like, maybe I should have dodged a little more, put my hand up a little more, chair shots and everything. And the guy's not doing health wise. All those fucking stunts he did, it's catching up finally to him. He has some major health problems.
Yeah, yeah. But in overall, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what they're saying is like Kane mixed with Mankind in a sense. Yeah, he's sort of like that mixed breed of character. But I still say that he gets his own lane because Abyss was pretty much decently in his own lane for most of it.
You know which wrestler I cannot stand? And it's nothing personal against him. I think he's a coward. I don't think he wrestles that good. I think he's a showboat, and I think he's a dick sucker. The Miz. I
Well,
go ahead.
nope, I'm gonna leave right there. Well,
Here's my reason why. First of all, people forget where the Miz started from. He didn't start it in the freaking tough enough bullshit. He got his contract because he was a famous MTV personnel. Remember, he started at Real Worlds. Then he went to the challenge for years and years and years. Then they did it tough enough, let's say, quote unquote, and all of a sudden he actually wins. Huh. But he admitted he wanted to be the wrestler from the beginning. Huh. I bet my both of my nuts that somehow, some way they got each other. Somehow they contacted each other, and that's how all this started. He was been training for being a wrestler for years. You see how I'm saying this, or no? It makes no sense.
No, yeah, I mean, look, Miz was definitely from the MTV world for sure, and all that stuff, and one of those challenge breeds. Uh,
And Eric's on the road tonight.
Eric is like, man, screw this. You know, you're just soiling me with this bullcrap. But yeah,
What Eric told me last time, The Miz is his favorite wrestler to date.
I'll say it like this, right? One thing I love about wrestling is when they get real poetic with the mic. And I'll say this. The Miz, one thing I'll give The Miz, right? When I remember he went on one of his more lethalized rants, and he was just, speaking how he was being disrespected, how no one doesn't give him credit for all the things that he's come through. And I ain't gonna lie, you have to give him credit. Yes, he sucked like ass towards the beginning, but you know what? He gotten really better. I mean, to be honest, Miz is like, if you had to build a character in the WWE game, it's like he's sort of like that. He gets better with timing, right? That's something you got to give him credit for. Like, he may not be great, but he gets better with
You've
timing.
reached your limit on talking.
Now I'm gonna keep on
Shut
talking.
the fuck up.
Yeah, you fucked up too. But yeah, he just gets better with timing. And funny enough, it's even interesting because the same WWE sign, he ends up doing what? He flips it and makes it an M.
Pretty
So
much.
like again, he's in right and perfect lane of everything he does. But yeah, but like one of his, like, I forgot one of his poetic rants that he went through, but it's funny enough that he says it because now that I remember it a little bit in my head. And at the end of it all, one thing I will say is like, you will give The Miz some credit down the line eventually, because trust me and believe me, you may not love everything about The Miz, and trust me, you may not love everything about him. The fact that he has more titles than most certain people that are gone and passed away is just oblivious, but you will recognize, as much as you don't like him, he was decent. That's what I'll give The Miz at best. Like, you may not like the guy, but he was decent.
I'm surprised he had all these titles matches. To be honest with you, I'm very
Hey,
surprised. Go
but
ahead.
yeah, but when you think about it, like a certified heel, though, he was one of the decent ones. I mean, he wasn't top tier, but he was decent.
The reason I haven't surprised The Miz has so many titles. Here's the reason why. When Vince was
Oh, okay, you trifling there. That's not trifling statement. He was.
what is wrong with Eric? Eric, you think Vince
I think Eric should be on here. He's more unhinged than me right now.
he's welcome to come on. I have offered him multiple times. But he goes, I don't have the gear. I'm like,
Just as useless as the clown. Oh, that's fucked up.
so when Vince was running the company, hate him, love him, different story. He didn't like big guys. Hogan, for example. Triple H, different story. He was being a pookie and fucking his daughter, but that's a whole different story. But he always liked big guys. The Rock, so on. Stone Cold. He might not look as big on TV, but they're pretty big on size. But Miz is actually very scrawny versus the other wrestlers, if you really think about it.
Yeah, he was. I think. Well, look,
Still
at
is.
the time period, yeah, he was definitely scrawny. Look, at the time period of it all, Vince at that point more likely still was the same way in that mindset, but not entirely within that mindset. Like, stripped from that ideal. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just keep selling the big guy. No, he eventually start wiggle rooming around. But by the time he started doing that, it's like, yeah, those caught like moments of glares and all this. Like, again, this is why I say you may not like it ultimately, but it worked for when it needed to work. Because again, this is about selling. Because when you're trying to make a heel, you got to sell massive heat. And again, The Miz took a lot of good heat because of his heel, because where he was in his heel status. regardless if you like him or not. He's the scrawny guy that's not overpowered and everything else. But trust me, you give him a moment to take advantage, he will definitely take advantage, and he'll drop your ass and send you packing.
Oh, I'm not denying that one bit. I can't deny he has impact in the wrestling world. Yes, but do I think he's overrated? Yeah, I really
Oh
don't
no,
see.
yeah, he's. I mean, look, I say it like this: the Miz was like this, like, how do I want to say this? When it comes to talk shows, I can say this. He's like a second coming of Chris Jericho. The only thing is Chris Jericho is actually just better as a wrestler. Because Chris Jericho had the highlight reel and everything, Christian, he had was up at the Peeps show or something like that before him, I think, give or take. So it's like he was sort of like second coming of those guys a little bit, but they were just better than him in wrestling. He was just a better talk show guy. He had the better look in the image for it, but he was just not the better wrestler amongst the two. Right? So that's how I look at it.
A lot of people think he should retire now. Jericho. He's
Yeah. A lot of people. I know a lot of people believe that. Yeah.
I'm either way. I really don't care if he retires or not. To be honest with you, but I don't want AEW that much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm sorry.
I don't get it.
Some people say it's actually better than WWE. Some people say it's worse. We don't know.
Maybe at the beginning, maybe, but no, it's no. Because trust me, people are trashing it now because pretty much people are saying, "How the hell you get all these guys? You get these new fresh guys. You start getting the TV time. Then now you're trashing them for the older people that have been there, done that." It's like, yeah, well, there you go, people. There you go.
I feel AEW was a repeat of WWE, WWF back in the day, bringing all the old legends in. I think it felt like a repeat. Hey, Dave, you going to join us or what?
I wouldn't say a repeat. I would say it gave you elements that you would love to, you love to see, right? It gave you the blood element, seeing people be bloodied and everything else of that nature. It brought back that feel of the hard knock, WWE world that we once known and loved. And go ahead. But guess what? When you start to see how fast that withers down and real quick, and knowing the bodies that you're doing it to, that became it came and called real quick that failed. Because the bodies you're actually doing it to. Because trust me, there were not grateful moments. Some people were injured at the wrong given time. Like literally, like certain people that were supposed to be injured, they got injured real fast. I'm like, this is why it's not done no more. For that reason alone. Well, for certain cases. I mean, sure, there's certain free accidents here and there, but it's like, but this is the reason why this is not done now. But
and a lot of wrestling moves got banned because they were getting hurting too many people too.
Pretty much. But overall, I mean, just to ask the main question of today's topic, if John Cena wasn't around, who would be able to step in and take the reign as being that guy? So I had to think about this a couple of times. I had to look around a couple of times. I had to think about this. And I think I still come to the same conclusion of where this goes. So it goes down two pathways. And only two because, one, depending on, it could go more, but it just had to go two in my mind because of certain transactions. And I would still believe Randy or Drew McIntyre would have been the guy in that shoes.
I think Randy, not McIntyre, because he got fired once and came back.
Well, yeah, but the reason why I say that is because you got to think about it again. If John Cena's not in play, it changes the timeline. So it's like you still have to look at it.
Changes everybody's past too.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But for McIntyre, I don't think so. It would it's not going to change effectively, but like I said, there is a different occurrence at that point because now you're bringing him with a slightly different element with John Cena not really being in play. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. There's a different works because with Randy and everyone else, I mean, granted, they still come into the same thing. I think Randy will still be Evolution. He'd still be the youngest world champion at that point and everything else and carve his own path. I still think that will still happen. So which is why I'll still give it a Randy over, but if there was ever a means to where whatever certain situation were to change, just like what Vince said, Vince still called Drew a future. So it's like one of those two. Because my other option was that I was thinking and just looking around could have been Batista, but then that wasn't gonna last too long. Personally, just looking at his overall career and everything else, and then looking at certain moments within his career, so it's like that wasn't gonna last long. And then I'm thinking of, I mean, well, the obvious would have been Brock, but then Brock again, still that wouldn't have lasted long. I think the same situation would probably occurred if anything. So, and then plus you think about all those other things, it's like no. So for me, it was just like, okay, who's been here long enough? Who's this and that? Just certain angle points, and I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, I still go with Randy or Drew
Mhm.
McIntyre because you got to think of it like this, right? When John came into the game, he wasn't the form that he was when he got in. He was like a lesser form of himself when he got into the game, starting in Raw and started in WWE, right? So by the time I would say Randy was pretty much the same thing. But the thing is with Randy had that following through being a heel. But I think Randy would have been more acceptable for some fact of, hey, you got to think of it like this. Randy's like 14 times world champion, so that's 2 behind John Cena. So that would have been easy right there, just alone. 2, he's about to be on his retirement, which, funny enough, same thing like John Cena is, because by the time he's age 50, Randy Orton's out. So, yeah, again, another prime reason for why. And what other factors could I really look at here? There just would have been a lot of more different things. Because, like, let's say hypothetically, right? You put it out there. Like, let's say certain switches were to happen. The Rock came back. Randy Orton got a problem with The Rock for whatever reasons. And they sort of did the same thing, like the whole Johnson thing, but Randy took it over. And he's like, I'm sick and tired of all these old school wrestlers coming back, trying to take my shine, trying to take my moment. And, he makes a whole tidbit about it where now he goes into, legend killer mode. Again, so it makes a nice fit for him to take that reign over because a lot of those moments could have been his moments.
Okay, he kind of did that in a way, if you remember when he did.
No, he did already, but that's what I'm saying. But if you had to replace somebody within the framework of what Johnson was going through, he sort of fits it right there. It's like he fits already because what he already did.
Now, let me ask this question: if John Cena never became John Cena, not as big he is, do you think that whoever was the face would have been as successful than he was?
As consistent as he was,
No, successful.
as successful. Now, now that is a tough sale to question because the thing is, this is where the hard price of sacrifice really came into play because again, Johnson had to do a lot of things, right? He had to do a lot of certain things. This was a lot. I mean, I think he could because I think they're around the same thing. It's just like Johnson did a lot more though. But if you needed Randy to be that guy to really push that avenue, I think he could. But the problem is though, it's a lot tougher because of the image that Randy was selling. Because you got to think about it. Because John Cena was more of a clean cut thing. It's like the only small thing was the thugonomics part. And I think that is a pick and choose. But other than that, I mean, if you think about it, most cases, John Cena was morally pushed towards the kids. He was that grandiose character. He pretty much was the second coming of Hulk Hogan in a way, but just with more influence on the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So you
I
had
actually, I want to highlight this comment Eric said. I have a reason why. So Samoa Joe should have been the face of the company. He's saying, and it would have filled Chris Benoit. So there's gonna be a hard no in every way of form. Samoa Joe wasn't in WWE at the time. He was in Indies when when Cena was
well,
coming around.
Okay, let me help you out. So, funny enough, if you haven't done your research, Samoa Joe actually was originally in WWE, but he wasn't like. If you didn't notice him and you didn't know the timing of when he was in there, then that's because of the fact of how quick, he wasn't that superstarish character yet. But he actually was in WWE way back. But the thing is, you wouldn't recognize him.
Skinnier.
So, he was skinnier. His face was a little bit more babyish, so you wouldn't recognize Samoa Joe at the time. I had to watch a video, and that showed me that he actually was there, and I'm like, oh,
I
this
know Samoa Joe was with WWE early. I didn't know the time period exactly.
yeah. But as far as what Eric is saying, I would have pushed Samoa Joe as the face of the company because Joe is the guy that fills the void left behind by Chris Benoit. The answer is to that no, he doesn't actually fit the premise of Chris Benoit.
And also because the tragedy of the incident, they never wanted somebody to fill Chris Benoit's shoes. As much you cannot take his work away from him. He's an incredible performer,
well, yeah,
incredible in the ring.
but
But
I think
what
if we're
he did,
focusing on just his like what's in his wrestling more than the whatever became personal, my thing is even then I never look at Samoa Joe as like a replacement void of Chris Benoit. It's not really the same.
so
I look
what's
at
an interview done with Paul Heyman? I know some people hate Paul Heyman and all this stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. You hate the guy or like the guy. But on his interview, he said something very straight and very forward. And they were talking about ECW, and somebody called out Chris Benoit, and somebody yelled back, "That's my boy!" And he stopped right then and said, "Like, who fucking said that?" He goes, and the guy
yeah,
wrestling, and he probably seen the interview a couple times. And he goes, "You know what I have to say to you? Fuck you." He goes to him.
yeah, because he said about
Yeah.
yeah,
All
because
right.
he was talking about his whole situation of how he did this and like how the hell can you sit here and you root for a guy that ends up killing what and doing what he did and I'm like were you this is my only thing, right? And this is the one thing I always like say to people: if you're not there, shut the fuck up. If you're not there, you don't know the story, shut the fuck up. Because if I hear Chavo and how he explained it, that sounds way different than what you're talking about, sir.
Was it me? Paul
No, because
Heyman?
Chavo, yeah. Because what Paul Heyman's saying about Chris Benoit, that sounds very different what Chavo Guerrero was saying. And I would think someone that like Chavo Guerrero that's actually close to Chris Benoit, I think he's more credible to say something more than anything else if anything were to transpire the way it did and for what it did. But one thing I always like to say too is understand this. If this was always about the big men, think about it. You had two of the greatest wrestlers of yesteryear had to push themselves over the hump just to even be seen or recognized. All because why? Because Vincey Pooh loved big men. And notice you got two of the greatest guys right now in wrestling that are gone because they wanted to they want to live up to that image of being a big man.
Yeah, that one was
I'm talking about Chris Benoit and I'm talking about Eddie Guerrero.
yeah, and also if you think about it, you had Ultimate Warrior trying big. All the steroids used, his heart gave out to him eventually.
Yeah, so well, I didn't know he was on steroids, but okay.
You didn't know Ultimate Warrior was on steroids?
No, I just thought he just had a horrible they just didn't sell his Ultimate Warrior status that well.
No, he was on steroids. He has admitted it multiple times. He was on steroids,
Well,
and that's why how big he was. He was humongous. On his run versus when he died. He was still a pretty big guy. Don't get me wrong, but the size he was on, humongous. You know what I'm saying? You there, Rolly?
Yeah, I'm here. No, I'm reading what Mark is saying. I mean, no one ever said Chavo was on Chris Benoit's level though. Like, so I don't know why.
Oh, Chow was nowhere near, but Eric Guerrero was better than Chris Benoit, hands down. And I'll fucking argue that any day of the week.
I take that in two different ranges. I like Eddie, just I like Eddie, Chris Benoit, but it's like I will never say one's more better than the other. I say they're in different pockets, and I have my reasons for that.
Okay, let me hear it. Why you said that? I want to hear your.
Because you got to think about it again. You got to think about it again. Chris Benoit is like more of that straightforward type of talk guy, heavy talk guy that's gonna willing to wrestle. Whereas Eddie, like Eddie, he gives you the same. Like he's more slick with it. He's more smooth, suave with it. He's a sweet talker that talks shit. But at the same time, it's like with Chris Brown, he's a heavy talker. He's doing this to talk real mess. Whereas like right, Chris Benoit's more of like the traditional type of wrestler guy. Eddie Guerrero is the Latin wrestler, you know. So it's like there's a different ways of style between the two. So it's like because there's styles and differences, like I would not sit here and say one's better than the other just because it's like, you know, they're both good in their pocket in their niche. I mean, if you want to take about popularity, then yeah, I think most people say Eddie's probably popular than Chris Benoit is.
Yeah. Let's see this guy. Get us our next guy in here. He is the most incredible person in the world. He is Little Groot.
I can never be Little Groot. I'm too big to be Little Groot.
You know
I
what,
might end up,
David?
I might end up killing your lady for that.
You know what,
Oh,
David?
he's no Little Groot. He's a
David, you're
big
absolutely
Groot.
right. You're right for once. I'm not gonna call you Little Groot anymore. I'll call you Old Groot.
No, that go to Moses. He could
Well,
take
you are
Groot
a
and
lot older.
part the river.
Not my fault. You
Yeah,
had
you talk about
great kids, great
yeah,
grandkids.
but I'm not Arpan. He take Groot to part the river, so don't go there.
Anyway, so
Eric, definitely for sure. That is definitely true. But especially at
Thank
the
you,
wrong time as well.
thank you.
what? What I missed?
What did I miss? What happened?
Well, like we went from one
You
thing
can't
to
call me.
another.
You tell him, oh, Groot. I said that go to Arpan because you took Groot and part the river.
No, that because you know, Wally said one thing, you said the other thing. You guys are like went two different
Yeah,
directions.
because I was talking about what Eric said in the chat.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Okay,
All right, David.
okay.
Because you're finally awake. You had your coffee, your early morning coffee, with a little cream and sugar. So I want to hear what is your opinion about John Cena wasn't around, my man, and I want to hear your opinion about his heel turn so far. The floor is yours, madam.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the question that people want to ask me if Johnson wasn't around.
You do know he called
Question
you
is,
madam, right?
I know you call me Madam. I'll call
Okay.
him Groot Jr.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
Sure. Okay. I don't know. I'll never reach my limit. Let's know that. Thank
Will you
you.
just go
Thank you for
already?
the intro. Thank you for the intro. As I was saying, the idea if Johnson wasn't around, the question that I asked herself, why nobody else didn't grab the brass ball as Vince McMahon has said in the Stone Cold podcast? Because if you want to listen to that podcast when Stone Cold have his show, it was either the After Raw or whatever, but he have Vince McMahon on his podcast and was asking those specific questions. Then you will get the hint. It's not that possible if John Cena wasn't around. Let's be crystal clear. You need to ask yourself this question. Who was the promoter at that time when John Cena came into existence? Who was calling the shot? Who was looking for someone to replace Hulk Hogan and the rest of those cats? Or the new generation of the leaders of the locker room? Because when I listen to all those information, I listen to the question, I listen to why Vince McMahon did what he did. You need to understand something. John Cena went to the class of him, Randy Orton, Dave Batista, um, Brock Lesnar, and the fifth guy, I forgot the name, he's in AEW right now, Shelton Benjamin. They're all within the same class. That's number one. You should make that known very well. That's from OVW, developmental, right in there. OVW is where you have is what NXT is right now today. You get me? When these class of wrestlers came in, trying to find their way, right? There was a lot of pressure on all five of them. Ladies and gentlemen, who came out and hit it hot properly, the right way? Yet they all crashed and fell when they first got in, but someone took the initiative to change. Who made that difference? John Cena. He said it himself one time. He was losing the match. He was trying to get a particular image. So when he did what he did, when he did the open time for, who, Kurt Angle, and he said rooted aggression, that gave it a hint what he needed to work on. Then when Definite Man gave him the clue how to switch it up, right there and there, that was the moneymaker. I think people trying to say, oh, if John Cena wasn't there, this would have happened. But you gotta ask yourself a question. John Cena first got in. Who didn't take over that heat before him? Who didn't step up the way John Cena didn't step up? Randy Orton could have been that, but his direction was completely different. Even though he was a generational wrestler after his father, they were trying to make him something that John Cena was, but it took him a while. He had a different path. Okay, what about Dave Bautista? Dave Bautista took a little longer. Brock Lesnar, that Brock Lesnar, they had to remold him, repack him to be something else. And Shelton Benjamin, who was a natural, keyword, a natural great wrestler, but to the promoter eye, you just understand what kind of promoter you had at that point in time. That's why I say people who want to talk about wrestling don't talk about the business aspect of it. Who were calling a shot? Who was the booker? What was the booker vision of the business? What was their ideology of how they run the business? Who were they putting in to be in a spotlight? Who they were overlooking? Who they were overshadowing? If you miss all that factor about wrestling and you're just a typical fanboy, then I will tell you this. You're not really a student of the game. Remember why it was hard for Triple H to take over. Why he trying to say he know more of the business better than Vince McMahon, but Vince McMahon was outdated. I was saying that for a good decade. And then Vince McMahon is out of touch and he outdated. But the thing is, but they have changed. The reason why Vince McMahon Sr. didn't want Vince McMahon Jr. to run the wrestling bit because he knew he will lose touch of the change that being made in professional wrestling. To prove my point once again. So is it possible that someone would have taken John Cena's place? Sadly, no. They were giving more than enough chance to do so anyway. No one stepped up the way he stepped up. So let's be real. Who was, I can't say ass kissing, who were doing all the favor and denting, who were doing things that draw the money for Vince? Remember the term, what is good for business? If you never run a business, you never work in a business that have last long and understand why that business lasts long, then you just shut the fuck up. Real talk. So that's a big question mark. If John Cena wasn't around, then who would Van would have put on the spotlight? There were many. There was some, according to my partner, while he said, who came originally from WWE, got left or kicked out, and went to the indie to make a name for themselves. But if Vin went reach out for them, bring them back here, ask that question. What was Vince's mindset at the time? You need to understand the business and the owner of the business, how he was thinking, how he was looking at things before you could say, oh, if he wasn't there, that yeah, there were plenty of other people, but he said it in the podcast with Stone Cold. No one grasped the ball the way John Cena did. Even Undertaker understood that. Why you think Undertaker had leeway to say what he need to say? He was the regulator. Who gave John Cena the rub that he made it in? You forget the part when he did a ruthless aggression and he did pretty well with Kurt Angle. Who gave him the rub behind after the show when he was showing live? We gave him the torch like you that man. What the Undertaker? Who the Undertaker recognized that way besides John Cena? And that way they put on the spotlight.
Well, that all depends, but okay.
It all depends, but yet, like I said, it all depends. But once again, I look at who was the actual leader, who was calling the shot, who was the regulator in the locker room, and as well done with the business. Who was Vince going to in case of is this the next generation or this not the next generation? Remember how Vince
No,
was
I
running
get you
WWE.
on that.
No, but here's the thing. We watched the documentary. I didn't let go of that information I got from the documentary. There were certain people who were gatekeeping that business. So, to the time that John Cena came in, who was the gatekeeper then? You gotta ask yourself that question. If you don't understand who are the gatekeeper, who was calling the shop, who was running things, who was saying this was not, then you will find out there's something that made John Cena what he is that even though who are gatekeeping say keep it on John Cena. The rest haven't stepped up yet. Remember, there's the locker room politics. There is. Because if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, okay, today's leader, Roman Reigns. How long did it took Roman Reigns, even though he was a family, but how much did they shit it on him? The way Roman Reigns was treated is not the same way John Cena was treated. They were trying to push him to be the replacement for John Cena. How much time he got shitted on?
No, yeah, for sure. No, that's true.
So how many times they beat him up with it? How many times they had to throw John Cena into it and literally embarrass him? People have to understand the wrestling. The wrestling business is very brutal. When I mean brutal, I mean brutal.
But here's
But
one thing
but
though.
but here's the thing. Let me make it very simple. The Miz have been there for a long time. Why didn't put it on the Miz head? The Miz was what they were looking for. He was trying to do exactly what John Cena would do, but there was not enough. You notice that. So who was on the same caliber with John Cena to do what necessary was needed? Especially Randy Orton, he did mention he group a lot of opportunity. Randy Orton was in the same class with John Cena and Dave Bautista. So let's look at the five. Once again, besides John Cena, who was there? Dave Bautista, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin. How come these other four didn't take the position of John Cena? What was the
Well,
difference?
well,
I
let's be
had to
honest.
I had to say that because I had to put myself in the shoe of the booker and the owner of the promotion. And what was my view I think was best for business. And why you think Shane McMahon couldn't come in sooner and take over? But because he said he left due to what?
Because
Remember
that
what
shit.
Shane remember Shane said that the reason why he left the first time? Because the creative idea were bumping off were conflicting with his who? Father. And Vince McMahon had an iron grip on the business, right? What do all the wrestlers said they had to do in hope that they can get Vince McMahon in? They were throwing idea, hoping that it would stick with who? Vince. Vince was a shrewd man, but he think he understand the whole entire landscape of wrestling. Not like wrestling was changing right under his nose. Let's be real. While John Cena was holding the mantra, right? What were the real competition outside WWE? We have Ring of Honor Wrestling, right? They will give it a different brand of wrestling with more perfection, not entertainment. Remember, Went from WWF to WWE, right? Went from being from wrestling to what the Cold War, what is for? Ah, yes, sport entertainment. Thank you, Eric. Leonardo was another one off his twit, but Leonardo was also an asshole. Kevin Dunn was another one. So when you have Vince McMahon lanky in the shadow, pulling string, you know how Vince is. He'll go to Leonidas. He'll go to Kevin Dunn. He'll go to the Undertaker. Whatever they say, he would take their idea more over anybody else. It's not so. Would anybody else put you back against no individual? Yes, definitely your man. Vince Princess. You got Triple H. You got Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon and Triple H was having a hard time to have their idea go through. So what led to the creation of NXT? Or to prove a point to Vince McMahon, I understand the business better than you. But what the Vince McMahon did behind his back in one moment when he had a little sickness or injury whatsoever? Tell him "Man, you don't know shit. And no offense, NXT was better than Raw and SmackDown when Vince was controlling it. But Vince think he knows better. And what trying to
Wait a minute. At what time frame? Wait. At what time frame
no,
we talking about
no,
here?
no, here's the thing. I'm going to the part whereby when Triple H started NXT to prove a
Uh
point,
huh. Okay. Yeah.
right?
Uh huh.
And while NXT was growing and getting stronger, right? The moment that Triple H got sick, what did Vince do?
Yeah. He revamped it and everything like that. Yeah.
He revamped it or he fucked it up. Let's be logical.
Well.
No,
Wait.
no, no.
When you say
Tell the
fuck it
truth.
up, you
No,
gotta think about
no. Let
that
me tell you
part.
why. Let me
Be
tell you
more
why I say
clear.
that. Let me tell you why I say that. Because when Triple H was running NXT, he was doing it his own way without Vince putting no state to it, right?
Uh
He
huh.
was proving a point. When he got
Uh huh.
sick and his best friend took over, who was hounding his best friend to do it this way? Who got
No, I
love?
get what you're saying, but again,
Look, I know, but you understand. Yes, Shawn Michael was there taking over for Triple H, but
no,
the
actually, it
Shawn,
was someone else at that point, if I'm not mistaken.
no, he
Shawn
passed the
Michaels
mic.
name came to after.
This
It
is
was
true.
the other brother. It was the other guy off of DX. I forgot his Road Dog. Road Dog should have been the one right there at that time.
Yeah, Road Dogg was behind there, but Shawn Michaels was in the front. Both Road Dogg and Shawn Michaels
No, but
running
that's what
the
I'm saying.
business.
I think Shawn Michaels came. I don't know. Okay, let me put
Yeah,
this in front. I don't know
but here,
when Shawn Michaels came in, but I know it was. I know Road Dog was somewhere in there, so I'm thinking Shawn Michaels came.
Road Dogg was the how you want to put it, the producers, slash the writers, slash all the other thing. He was the the locker room regulator for NXT, while Shawn Michaels was the face to help run it.
Eric,
While Triple
you're on one tonight, boy. Trust me.
who
No, Eric, what he said in the comments, he's on one tonight.
But see the thing, Eric got a point because during the time Vince McMahon was putting all these people at the time John Cena came in, Patterson was still there. Thank you for mentioning that. Remember, here's the thing: you had to understand the environment that John Cena made it through, and why what he did was a little bit different. Because when you have Vince McMahon running the show, if you don't take that type of risk to prove a point that you the moneymaker for Vince,
So hang on, David. Back then, it was very political. If you really think
it
about it,
was, it
if
was.
you didn't kiss the boss's ass cheeks and asshole at the same time and eat his
Oh,
ass out,
mm, 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 mm,
and
mm,
join a kiss my ass club when after he took a
mm.
shit,
Yeah,
and leave the shit
that's the
on there
thing.
as you
The,
kissing his ass and licking his ass off
see,
the shit off his ass.
now I'm glad you get it now. I'm glad you get it. And it was that politics was vicious. Let's be real. And he told Steve Austin on his podcast that no one was stepping on to grab the brass ball or whatever you want to call it.
See,
So
Cena had a couple things
no
going
one
for
was
him. You know, from the start, he had
yeah
size.
Mm-hmm.
He was a clean white boy. Let's be straight.
Mm-hmm.
And he caught the audience with the rap because rap was really popping at the time. My
And who idea what the rap? Who idea what to put him
oh, I
to the
said
rap?
earlier in my show, my open comments, it was Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, I wasn't here,
It
but
was
I was
yeah, what
I'm
it
glad you
wasn't.
mentioned that.
They were on a bus and he was about to get cut. He knew it. He was trying to figure out how to save his job. He couldn't figure it out, and the guys were freestyling in the back, so he went and joined them. He freestyled, and Stephanie goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Holy shit, this guy's actually fucking good for a white guy." And she made a comment like, "You should do this next time you go in the ring," and he did. And that's where
And that
economics
idea,
got
and I'm
born.
glad. But here's the thing: you said something, the crucial. He's about to lose his job.
Yeah.
How many people had that
When
same?
he first came on the scene, people forget about this. Like, oh, okay, but John Cena turned heel. He was heel when he first came on.
He was, and he answered the
Challenge.
Kurt Angle
And
challenge,
he was
and
supposed to
did a
replace
like great
Kurt
thing
Angle at one point. That's what he
Well,
on the
wait,
post.
he was considered heel when he first came in.
Yeah.
That wasn't properly
That
sold
was.
then.
Oh, it was. And he was about to get cut.
Well, no, I know about the cut part, but I'm saying if that was supposed to be a heel John Cena when he came in, that was a horrible
I
set.
actually was trying to find non-copy footage, but unfortunately, WWE has such a strong what's what we're looking for,
Stronghold.
hold strong
Mm-hmm.
fist around our balls over
Mm-hmm.
that. Even a
Mm-hmm.
second clip, I would get copy striked.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying you needed to do all that, but what I'm
No, no,
saying,
no, no. I'm explaining to you guys why I don't have any videos.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I already know that part. No, that's
I
nothing to
know
worry about.
you know that, but my audience, I'm
Oh,
explaining.
yeah. For the audience, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But the
So
main reason
it
why I'm hitting on that is because if you told me right that John Cena at that point in time when he came in and faced Kurt Angle, he was supposed to be a heel. That makes no sense because Kurt Angle was a heel.
yeah, he was the heel, but the thing that Kurt Angle did that open challenge, see who can
Well, yeah,
step up, and
yeah,
the
I
way
get that
and the way
part.
John Cena knocked it out the park during that time, everybody in the back was
No,
shocked
yeah,
that
I like that part.
Cena could keep no that part. Cena was showing that he do have a glint of hope that he can do this, but still, the man who called the shot, who made the final judgment, was still feeling like
Yeah, and those are idiots.
something not there yet. Something not there yet. But even though Undertaker gave him that rub, like you did good, kid, yeah, that you good for this, but still was not enough because the image was not was
I mean, yeah,
clicking until Stephanie gave him the hint, and once he
So
did
I
that,
cannot play
remember,
videos, but I can show pictures of his first turn heel. I have those ready actually right here.
well, yeah, well,
go ahead.
go ahead.
So, oh, wrong thing. My bad, guys. Uh,
Hey.
shut up, David.
Well, real quick. So the thing is, right? Because when he came in, I mean, regardless if it was open challenge or not, again, I just don't really like, even if he did, because here's the reason why, right? Because you said the whole Undertaker nudge thing. But that's my thing, is like you getting that nudge, it doesn't really sells you as a heel. It just sells you as a face, really. You just took
Yeah,
you just took the challenge and you show you have some guts and some balls.
but
So,
here's the thing:
hang on,
that the
David.
way John
If you
Cena
see his
first came in,
pictures where he's dressed, they dressed him a certain way, get trunks on to be. He was originally
yeah,
supposed to win the Kurt Angle challenge.
but here's the thing though. Look at the picture on the far left. It was no different than how he came to WWE. 'Cause remember, that's the old OVW look that he had.
Yeah.
99 no.
He came with he came with the OVW look because if you look at the OVW video of John Cena, Randy Orton, Jay Batista,
All of them
Brock
came like that.
Lesnar, and Shelton Benjamin,
Yeah, but
they all came like
that's
that.
the problem. But that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. I say it like this, right? Because a lot of people were quote unquote fired when they got in, and they looked too, niche. They didn't look like what they're supposed to be, what they evolved to be. But that's the
Bingo,
problem. It's like, because think
bingo.
about that. A lot of wrestlers got kicked off just because of that. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, all those guys eventually got kicked because they didn't have that je ne sais quoi. But guess what? All those guys eventually made a name for themselves, and WWE's like, oh, we didn't see this coming. And think about
You
it,
don't know why they didn't
as
see it coming? They were stuck in. They were stuck with a stupid mold. They were thinking, "Oh, you
yeah,
gotta
I
do
know
this way,"
that.
but not realizing.
But my
But
main
here's the thing.
look,
It,
just real quick, look, I'm gonna give you the mic. But my main thing is shit like that, moments like that when you don't recognize a wrestler because they're not in that mold phase is the reason why it gets very trump carded and you sell out and you miss out on golden gems. This is why I would love to sit here and say the real replacement would have been AJ Styles, but the problem is for me is not being able to say it's because of how fast he got kicked and he went to TNA. But the thing is, the reason why I would have said AJ would have been my original answer. Honestly, overall, AJ Styles would have been my original
you would
answer
have.
because if he came and hit the moment he came in, it would have been over. It would have been over.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You gotta put it in perspective. This is what I'm trying to say, based on the promoter, right? Let's make what during the time when John Cena came, what other wrestling promotion that was completely different from WWE? Remember there was Ring of Honor Wrestling, right? There was TNA, right? The Fire was in Washington, right? You got New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? You got Wrestling Nova, Triple A, right? Funny how some of the wrestlers from WWE were allowed to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and wrestle over there and still come back. Ain't that ironic? Brock Lesnar went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kurt Angle went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Interesting. Shelton Benjamin did it too. Interesting. The Dudley Boy did it too. Even though you took over ECW and they still went there and make a name for themselves even more.
Yeah, they went there
Certain
after the whole
WWE
title
wrestlers,
reign.
somehow I'm trying to figure out why did Vince McMahon allow certain wrestlers to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and later on come back? I was like, what was the angle? What were they trying to do?
Like who exactly?
No, because here's the thing. If you wasn't paying attention, you know how Vince McMahon dominated the wrestling scene in North America.
Uh
How he trying to show other
uh
promotion. And he trying to do the same exact thing against Ring of Honor after he took over ECW. Yeah, he took over WCW,
okay,
right? So what you think he was gonna do? He will look at which promotion can I take over that now that I have something I can play with.
okay,
He didn't care. He didn't care too much about TNA. TNA wasn't got all the reject to him that he didn't like went to TNA, so he could kill us.
okay,
Ring of Honor Wrestling. What is a threat to WWE? But did they have thing that he like over there? No. Okay, fine. He left those promotion alone and defy. He looked overseas, so he wanted to extend his reach. Remember when they had NXT UK, they put it on NXT Japan. That did not work. You know why? NXT Japan wasn't going to work because New Japan Pro Wrestling were not going to allow it. That was their turf. Who are you to come to their country and open a branch of wrestling thinking that you can pull that shit off in their turf? You were able to do that in the UK, but you only did it for UK. What are you able to do to all the other regions of Europe? There was other wrestling promotions besides in the UK in Europe that were going, but some of them were pushing back because they had a feeling how Vince McMahon was going to run that shit. But when they removed NXT UK, how many businesses did he affect? A good number of them, if you don't remember. New Japan Pro Wrestling started to expand their reach to North America. So you have the strong style version of New Japan Wrestling located in California, right? Fine, that's what their reach for now. Ring of Honor Wrestling was still provided the type of wrestling different from WWE, but wasn't a threat yet. TNA could have been a threat until the time they brought Hulk Hogan, and everybody was predicting Hulk Hogan would do the same thing he did in WCW. And lo and behold, he actually did it, but
well,
behind closed
I
doors.
don't blame Hulk Hogan for
No,
that.
no,
That's part of Eric
I,
Barry.
I, no, I know I don't blame him either, but at the same time, there was much bigger issue before Hulk Hogan got there.
I mean, were there issues? Yeah, but when the reason why I'm saying what I
Hey,
was about to say is because the downfall at that point in time was really because of Eric Bischoff more than anything else. I mean, Hulk Hogan was just under that whole
I know
thing.
it. No, Hulk Hogan was the I want to say the puppet to you to in case something goes wrong, you put the blame on him. I know it's Eric Bischoff. That was that's what it was. But it was more to it than that. Because before ever Big John Hogan got there was still issue over there in TNA. AJ
Here's the
Styles
thing
said
with Bishop. People don't
he
understand. Yeah, he was a decent promoter. I'm not denying that. He was decent, not great. But the fucker spent money fast as he can shit it out of his ass. He was promised all these wrestlers
mhm,
these high numbers, and that was the first downfall of WCW. Person, oh, guaranteed 5 million a year, 6 million, 10 million, 8 million. I'm like, what? Oh, well,
he
management so poor, the money wasn't bad. But before I let you go, David, let me get this guy in here. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our president.
Oh, he's here.
Let me get Mr. President. You can see me. You can see me. Peekaboo. Peekaboo.
oh boy.
I'll give anybody $10 if you tell me where is that from.
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know.
Oh
Cena versus The Rock feud. Paul, what's going on, my man? How are you
oh
tonight?
Tired.
Yeah, it's local to my life.
When you return back to hit after 2 weeks off, yeah, man. That's why I never like to get off it, but it's for the girls. I do it for the ladies.
Why you took 2 weeks off? I thought you were at the gym this week with your
Nah,
daughter.
not hit. High intensity training, my training, none like it.
Okay.
So I don't care. You can do any other protocol or whatnot, but if it's not hit, it's like I never worked out at all. So I'm exhausted.
Do you want me to get your violin now?
Mm. I'll take 2 Advil right now, actually. But
All right, Paul. What do you know about John Cena?
I saw John Cena when he first came into WWE. I saw the
You.
transition into the rapping WWE, and we've seen the Fruity Pebbles, John Cena as well. So I've kind of seen most of the transitions that he's been through as certainly as a wrestler. I never thought he was a great technical wrestler, but he's certainly one of the strongest wrestlers of all time, pound for pound. Him and who's that guy, Cesaro? I would put those guys up there with anybody in terms of just outright strength. Very powerful, perfect size for a wrestler, 262, 250. He can get in there with the big guys as well as the smaller ones. And I just think that for what McMahon wanted him for, I thought he was a perfect guy. Never saw a wrestler who was more had a bigger contrast in terms of love and hate. And the way he was able to play the character without switching. I mean, I was actually disappointed. Well, I think he should have stayed retired. I mean, WWE is always going back and getting these guys that are past their prime, and he's
Well,
clearly
technically, he never did retire.
but I know, but he's past his prime. I mean, and they like
I know.
Undertaker should have probably retired 5-6 years before he did. John Cena should have retired. I mean, a lot of guys hang on longer than. I mean, it was almost after a while the WWE was becoming, the 40 plus. Everyone was like over 40 years old. And I was like, where's the young talent? Where are the young guns that are coming up? So I think they hung on to older talent too long. And Cena, I think he became an example of that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. His last WrestleMania that I saw him in, he was just a shell of himself. And the spots, he wasn't hitting his high spots in the matches and whatnot. I mean, I thought it was a terrible. The last time I saw him in a WrestleMania was like one of the last ones that I saw, and I haven't really watched a whole lot since then with him in it. But him coming back, maybe because I don't know, Hollywood's drying up or whatever, so he went back to I guess what he knows. But it's just not a good look. And seeing these old guys come back trying to capture glory, I just think I think that's just a endemic of the WWE. in that they want to hold on to their legends too long. But that being said, in his prime, when he was doing certainly the the baggy short pants and the baseball caps and stuff, I thought in a lot of ways he was great for business because people you either heard loving and jeering him. The polarizing figure. I've never seen a wrestler who got that kind of polarization. But I thought he was a good representative for the company. His work with like Make a Wish Foundation and his marketing brand for kids, I thought it brought a lot of families, especially coming out of the Attitude Era, where a lot of parents were, certainly not feeling, the product, especially for younger kids. I think he brought a lot of a younger audience and families, therefore, into it that may have been lost due to the Attitude Era. Now, again, I know there's a lot of people who the Attitude Era people say is the greatest of all time, and obviously with Stone Cold and The Rock and Triple H, I mean, certainly they're certainly they have their own claims to wrestling history and that era for it. But I think he brought a lot of fans back to the business that might have been turned off by the current product, at least for their kids and whatnot, the merchandise and everything that he was able to do, and he was a great representative. I think very little drama outside the ring. I didn't love his that reality series when he was dating one of those twins, and all that kind of drama. I thought that was the diva stuff. I didn't necessarily feel, but he did anything and everything. I guess that McMahon wanted of him, for the company. And I don't think you can argue with the success that they enjoyed, in that time. But I think a lot of the hate came from those from the Attitude Era who didn't like the Fruity Pebbles, the kind of corny, cartoonish image that he portrayed. But he was able to sell it. He came out, people booing him. He smiled, looked into the camera, did his pointy thing, ran to the ring, and did his thing. And he embraced it. I think that his promo with The Rock leading up to their WrestleMania, again, another over the hill. Rock, I think, pulled an ab or something like that in the match or something, and wound up hospitalized because of that. Again, keeping old guys around, 40, 50 years old, taking bumps. And I just think that, I don't see that being very appealing. But that being said, I think the way he went at The Rock when The Rock was calling him every name in the big book, basically calling him corny, and he went in there and shot as good as a promo against The Rock in that time that I've ever seen. So I would say overall, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of his, but I certainly respect what he did for the business, the fan base that he attracted to the business, and certainly one of the more consequential WWE champions. I haven't taken the time to rank champions, I go all the way back to Bruno Sammartino. So I go, back a little while with some of these guys. So I haven't spent the time actually ranking guys, but certainly in the last 20, 25 years, I would say probably he's up there from a business point of view for what you want as a champion. Did I enjoy all of his stuff? No. But for what he was summoned to do, I think he did as good a job as anybody as anybody else.
People forget where he started. Like us four, minus Wally, doesn't remember his beginning step because I know Wally's a little younger than all of us.
Remember who's?
John Cena steps when he first came on.
I was literally there when he came onto the scene. What are you talking about?
What do you mean there? You were like at WWE Raw thing?
When he was starting, I was there my whole childhood. I know John Cena since my whole childhood.
Okay. No, I might be wrong. Like I said, I'm wrong. I'd be wrong. Shit, man. Relax. Relax with a gunfighter, man.
I was talking about the whole thing, so I knew who John Cena is. If you want to talk about someone else different, then maybe, difference.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes that we don't get. And people who are fascinated with wrestling, like myself, Wally, David, Paul, we looked in like me and Paul have met wrestlers, and we see the difference night and day. So people say it's fake, and it is somewhat fake. But not all the bumps are fake. You know, getting slammed, all that stuff. They feel it over time. So that's a question. Like a day is if John Cena didn't take all those bumps, all those hits, who would have taken his place instead? Paul?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the guys that came up with him, you're talking like Randy Orton, you're talking Batista, all those guys from was that Nexus? I think it was
Yeah,
Nexus.
It's
Brock,
probably VW.
Brock
Um,
This
Lesnar.
was way after. So OVW, you're mostly talking about.
yeah, and obviously Brock, certainly was a. Now again, in the ring, I think Brock certainly was a better athlete. Him, Kurt Angle. I mean, I think a lot of those guys. I think Kurt Angle might have been a little bit before John had his run, obviously, but um, but no, I think he, he was athletic enough, but at the same time, he'd take a pie in the face if need be. You know, um, it's almost like he kind of took where Kurt Angle kind of left off. He had a little bit of that in terms of being be willing to make sort of the fool. Um, but then again, when he needed to take on the bigger promos or whatever, he was able to do that as well. So I just think he was just a good. And again, as far as reputation wise, I don't think there was any scandal or anything that you can necessarily call him to the carpet on, especially given all the controversy. Again, going back a few years earlier, not only with the Attitude Era, with the steroid scandals that came after that. I just think he was like almost like a Bob Backlund, not Mr. Backlund, but I'm talking about like a Bob Backlund from the 70s, kind of like squeaky clean, kind of PC type of guy who at the same time is able to get heat, whether it could be good heat or bad heat, even portraying as a goody two shoes, but almost too good that people hated it because they thought it was fake and phony. He was able to take that on and wear it with grace. And I just think that can't be understated. And that no matter the as much vitriol as he got, again, his work, I can't say enough, his work with the kids, I think is commendable. And I think that he did a lot to draw young kids
He's
and
the
therefore their
number one.
families in the business.
He's the number one Wish Foundation person that
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact the words of it. He's the number one from WWE Wish Foundation, and he holds a record how many he showed up to do I wish to
Yeah, well, you would have the kids that would come to the match, like to make a wish, like either to meet him or come to matches at ringside or whatever. Like he was very much involved in it. So I got to give him.
He was their cash
Yeah.
cow.
So I
Put it like that.
got to give it's not textbook wrestling. He's no now. Eric mentioned in the comments you made some blasphemous comments, Pete, about Ricky Steamboat and Superfly Jimmy Snuka, who are on my Mount Rushmore. I must say, Ricky Steamboat is on my Mount Rushmore of greatest wrestlers of all time, and Jimmy Snuka is arguably probably my favorite wrestler of all time. Up to obviously the incident that we found out later
scandal.
with stuff, but at the time, I can't tell you how hot Superfly Snuka was. So, what was it that you said that has Eric addressing it in the chat?
I said, and I quote, I personally think they're overrated myself because
That is as blasphemous a statement as you ever made. Ricky Steamboat is one of the greatest technical mat wrestlers
personal
of all time. Full stop. Just stop. Snuka, not as much, but if you want to talk about an attraction, 1982, 1983, the story is that the reason why Vince brought Roddy Piper into the WWF at the time was to essentially take Snuka down because Hogan was about to come. He did come in 1980, in 83 into 84, But the problem was all of the energy was in Snuka. The crowd wanted Snuka actually to be champion. He was that hot. His face turn against Captain Lou Albano was one of the biggest face turns of all time. He was the attraction at Madison Square Garden, and he had arguably at the time the greatest highlight in wrestling for years, where he jumped off the top of the cage on Don Morocco in the middle of Madison Square Garden. To this day, that's one of the match. If you ask any wrestlers that came since, that's one of the greatest things like they ever saw. So Snuka was hot. They needed to basically get him into a feud with Piper to bring him down so that Hogan could elevate. But it was like Hogan wasn't getting the draw that Snuka was. So not as technically sound as Steamboat was, but certainly as an attraction, he was the biggest thing in wrestling for that 1983-1984 time period until Vince
And he was
decided to make the move.
and he was a money draw
Oh,
too. He was drawing
sellouts.
the money
I mean,
too.
but again, people were coming to Garden not to see Hulk Hogan. They were coming to see Jimmy Snuka. That's how big he was. So again, so Vince had to do a change in order to get Snuka kind of almost like to the mid card to get him off the scene so that he can pump up Hulk Hogan coming in from AWA.
But that right there just show Ben don't know how to understand the audience. He was trying to manipulate the audience. Say, no, this what you want.
Yeah. He
That's
wanted,
what
yeah,
the
he
great
wanted,
wrestling is.
he didn't want any more ethnic champions because again, you had Bruno Sammartino, you had Pedro Morales. So again, he wasn't trying to go ethnic with another. And plus, the reality is also again, Snuka was not good as far as once he got into the drugs and all that kind of stuff, he was missing dates and stuff. So he wasn't reliable. I mean, in order to be a champion, at the bottom line is you need to be reliable and you need to show up when it's required you to show up.
When it's
I
game
don't think
time.
Snuka did that, so he was never going to be the face of the WWE or the WWF at the time. But my thing is, you certainly could have made Steamboat because again, every match that he's in, the guy was butter smooth. The greatest matches of all. They say the greatest match of all time. They still refer to it is Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage in WrestleMania 3. One of the greatest matches. Check out the matches that he had with Ric Flair prior to him coming to WWE. So you talk about Mid-Atlantic in the late 70s into the early 80s. Look at the matches they had there. Look at the matches he had with Ric Flair in 88, 89 when he came back to NWA at the time. Some of the greatest matches of all time. And he did it well into his 40s. I mean, the guy was butter.
Dude,
As
I'm not saying
smooth a
he
customer
wasn't
as
a
they
good
came.
wrestler. I personally thought he was a little overrated. Maybe because he was before my time.
No, he had everything. He had the body. He had the Now again, I would say his promo skills. I wouldn't say they were at the top. He certainly was no Ric Flair or whatever. He was like the opposite of. He was like very vanilla. I would say. I'll give you that in terms of his promo skills. But in the ring, and wrestlers will tell you, smoothest operator. He didn't fight stiff. The guy
He was
was
very safe in the ring. Very
the
safe.
guy was a machine, and everything he did looked good. His arm takedown, I mean, smooth. Nobody did it. That snatch armbar that he did, nobody did it as smooth as he did. He could do it in his sleep. He could do it blindfolded if he needed to. He was so good at it, and it made you believable. So again, I think that, like I said, he's on my greatest wrestlers of all time. Wrestlers now. I'm not talking about entertainers or whatever. In terms of professional wrestlers, smoothest guys, the smoothest operators of all time. He's on my Mount Rushmore. And again, certainly if you want to go back, look at those matches that he had with Ric Flair. Look at the match that he had with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. And you'll see then again what I'm talking about. He was a very, very excellent wrestler. But as far as
I'm not denying he's a
popularity
great
wise,
wrestler. I'm not denying that one bit. I think he's one of the best.
if you want to say
I just-
popularity wise, again, he never got to the.
That's what I was talking about.
I will give you that.
Popularity-wise.
If you're talking popularity, I will give you that on Steamboat. I cannot give you that on Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Superfly Jimmy Snuka was the top wrestler in wrestling from probably 1982 to 1984, early 84 when Piper came in. He was you couldn't get it off him. He was electric. Nobody before we because again a lot of people in America didn't see the Mexican luchador wrestlers or whatever, and a lot of people didn't weren't used to seeing a lot of the aerialists. Again, you're coming out of the era of Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund and whatnot. Nobody saw a guy leaping off the top rope and splashing people. Nobody was seeing that kind of stuff, so people would go ape when he would come out, and it was and like I said, when he did the face turn on Lou Albano, that just took
And
him
Paul,
into the
it could be
stratosphere.
part of it when they were coming on or towards the end of their run. I was already.
Yeah, yeah,
That's probably what most
yeah.
of
By
it
the
is.
time you got into it, at best he was a low to mid Carter by that point. At best,
I don't even remember him wrestling
yeah.
much.
So yeah, you're talking about his run again, given his issues outside the
These are like
ring.
the
Yeah,
few wrestlers I remember. It was Hogan, obviously, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake. Trying to think of any. Those are the three I can remember off my head right now.
yeah. But Snuka was already gone by then. By the time those guys were
Yeah,
really at the top, by 1985, Snuka was like a mid Carter.
yeah.
It just wasn't.
Before we
Yeah.
go on our final thoughts, I have one question. I skipped by, and I do apologize because we're talking about so many things. So the question is, what do you think about WWE signing Kevin Moorhead
Craven Moorhead.
to a contract?
I've never heard of him, so I can't.
People are complaining him to
People are
Young Rock.
comparing him to a Young Rock. Yeah.
So I thought earlier when he mentioned this, I'm thinking that was Ricky Saint, or Ricky Starks, that they would also know him as. But I guess that's not. I don't know if that's him for sure. I don't know who that is exactly.
I am going to look it up really fast. Go ahead, David. David.
I'm just gonna say this. It's almost impossible to find someone besides John Cena who was the cash cow for Vince McMahon because everything was based on politics and what bringing the money in for him. There was many other wrestlers who had the chance to take that brass knuckle. That would have worked, the brass knuckle. But they wasn't doing it the way John Cena was doing it. Because remember the time John Cena became that it man, you have Randy Orton, who had a lot of issue behind closed door, in the locker room as well. You had Dave Bautista, who couldn't find his niche until later on, until they pair him off with Triple H and Ric Flair. Remember that part?
Yeah, it was supposed to be
And
the
Randy
new
Orton.
Force Horsemen, but they don't want to name that like that.
Yeah,
They had to give it a name. So
they call it Evolution. So
exactly.
Dave Bautista and Randy Orton was given two mentors to get them to where they need to be.
Mhm.
John Cena didn't have that. Let me think about that. Did he?
No, he winged
Well,
it.
he winged it by himself. But Dave Bautista and Randy Orton, who came from the same class as John Cena, had to be paired up with two mentors, Triple H and Ric
One
Flair.
thing I wanted to say,
Interesting.
David, is no,
Brock Lesnar, hold on, I haven't finished. Brock Lesnar got to get paired up with who? Paul Heyman to click. And Shelton Benjamin was overlooked because he wasn't as big as John Cena nor Jay Batista. But that guy was a natural, but he was overlooked. Why was he overlooked? Vince McMahon had his set look of what he expected the next best thing supposed to be, even though he was out of touch. He was. All the big thing that came after who was looking from WWE, they had to prove a point that Vince McMahon was out of touch when they make their name big out in TNA, Independent Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor Wrestling, and so on and so forth. They prove a point. When Triple H created NXT, who did he bring over? Seth Rollins, CM Punk. There were many other. He was trying to prove a point. Wrestling has changed. Who was not budget? Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was an outdated encyclopedia of wrestling. He was completely outdated for more than a decade, but he did not care. That's what the issue. So it's hard to say anyone will replace John Cena if you can replace Vince McMahon. Let's think about that.
Well, I mean, but you only point out one thing. That's what I'm saying. Like for me, I don't really. If you're talking about just replacing John Cena because of the cash cow factor, it's like, but that's my thing. I wouldn't just focus on that alone. Like that's one entity, yes, that no one will ever eclipse over. But after that, I mean, again, if you're looking at just the wrestling part, who would have just clipped over him? Randy's right there. He's right there. And literally, out of Vince's mouth, what did he said for the new generation? Drew McIntyre was the next one up. He was quote unquote the chosen one in his eyes, even though he eventually let him go and let him walk to other wrestling corporations at the point. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, only thing I had to push back what you guys are saying.
You prove my point.
Hang on, David. The only little pushback I have was saying
No.
if Cena wasn't around, Batista might have taken the position. I don't think so because even Batista said he never wanted to wrestle that long. Even now, he lost so much weight because he didn't feel he was healthy, and he feels a lot better. So,
Well, yeah, but I think Batista wouldn't live up to it anyways because, again, but for me, Batista, he's one of those guys that he is one of those big muscle workers, but he wasn't one of those guys that generally look like he's someone that's really in it. Like, again, like, because I know you said 2 mentors. Technically, Batista had actually 3. Remember, Batista came up as the side piece man, soldier buddy of Devon Dudley. Y'all go remember that point.
oh shit, I totally
I forgot that one.
Yeah, he
Okay,
looked like
yeah.
a fucking animal in a way.
Yeah, well, he was. Well, that's why he's called the animal. But he wasn't the
Back then,
quote-unquote
before the
prodigy guy as he was at the time. So it's like, okay, yeah. But yeah, for sure, Randy Batista wasn't what they were at the point. I mean, yeah, Randy was quote unquote a generational wrestler because he was under his daddy, and then Batista was just some new guy on the block. But even then, it's like the thing
I want
with
to mention
John.
one thing. I want to mention one thing before we close our final thoughts. Last night we were talking on the barber shop, and people were talking about generation basketball players. I forgot. WWE is known for generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, 20 generations. Not yet, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I think that's the path they're taking. And I think in not only wrestling, in all sports, when you put a hard stop on that, you see, oh, my daddy was, a 5-time world champion. He knows it. No. You should earn your fucking licks like everybody else does. But
I think you do though. I mean, I certainly, obviously, you see the generational aspect of it, but again, you can't be I've only known a couple guys who sucked as next generation wrestlers. One is Greg Gagne, who's probably the worst.
I don't remember him at all.
Yeah, Vern Gagne, who was the founder and led the AWA for all those years. His son was awful. Okay. Not a good guy, but obviously he's the owner's son, so you can attribute that to nepotism. Ric Flair's son, David, and certainly not a good representative. You also had a third generation from Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig's son. He's all right. He's a mid Carter.
The guy who Mr. Million.
Yeah, Ted DiBiase's son was probably the worst.
Yeah, DiBiase wasn't that good. Also, you had I think Stan Hansen, not Hansen. Who's guy? He was actually Stan the Man. Oh, jeez.
I know you're talking about the guy.
His son was a general. But now, having said that, now the Mike Rotundo's sons, with the exception of Bo Dallas, I think certainly his the weird guy, he was an impactful.
Bray
Wyatt, yeah.
Bray Wyatt
was beyond. He was.
I'm just saying, but he's nothing like what his father was. Mike Rotundo
was but he definitely was a second tier successor. I mean, it took them a minute, but
Stasiak, Stasiak. That's what I was talking about. Thanks, Eric. So again, it's work. But I mean, the only thing I would put wrestling a little bit different is just like, you gotta love that. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're just trying to do it just to be doing it, I don't think you're gonna be sort of ratted out. Like I said, unless you're the boss's son, that's the only reason I could see it working. But give credit now. Let me ask you this. But I know we got to go. What's your opinion of Shane McMahon as a performer?
As a performer, better than his father. Much better as his father. No, that's just the truth. That's just
Obviously,
the truth.
I'm
But
just
overall,
saying,
but overall,
but
as a
that's a
wrestler,
guy who again didn't. I don't know. Did he have his comeuppance? I don't know what it did. Was he an amateur wrestler or background? I don't know what his background was.
No, his background was pretty much really being his father's son. But I think the one thing I will give Shane, though, because I know some people may think Shane is not that good, but funny enough, if Shane was to quote unquote be in the wrestling game and really actually love it versus just being, daddy's little bastard. Yeah, honestly, I think he would have a decent career. I think he would be a nice, decent mid Carter, which, daddy would have pushed him to be a main Carter, quote unquote, little storyline or whatever. But yeah, he would be a decent wrestler. He would definitely be decent.
But I'm saying, but I would give credit to him for what he was able to pull off.
Yeah.
And not quote unquote pay his dues as other wrestlers would have, or certainly some of the old school guys would have said that he didn't pay his dues. But I think Dwayne Johnson, I think he paid his dues in wrestling. So yeah, I think that it's
Dwayne Johnson, Rocky Johnson, made it sure he earned his stripes. He said when they were doing the Young Rock and they were filming that part of him, becoming a wrestler. His father says, "I'm not taking it easy." His father beat the living shit out of him at times.
Yeah.
Some people call that child abuse, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah, no, he made so I think it's not I don't know if it's a fair statement across the board. I mean, obviously there have been some guys who sucked. I mean, David Sammartino, Bruno Sammartino's son, that was a push. And then the only reason why Bruno started, made those comebacks in the mid '80s or whatnot was because Vince promised to put his son, give his son some shine, but he wasn't necessarily a great wrestler either. So again, it's hits and misses with it. But if it's hard to deny one family though. And that's that Hanoi family. It seems like it don't matter who you put out there. They just that whole bloodline of family members. They don't turn out. Not everyone gets to the top, but for the most part, they that's an institution there. So
I think the only flop were the ones that passed away, and then of course the ones that just never seen the light.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Eric mentions the Von Erichs. I don't know if you guys were old enough to remember the Von Erichs.
I don't remember watching.
Wasn't old enough to see their timing, but I do know who they are.
Tragic story. That's one of the most tragic stories in wrestling.
The last generation of the Von Erichs are in AEW now.
Yeah.
But the original Von Erich family, though, that one of the most tragic stories in wrestling. I mean, it's almost like I don't believe in family curses or whatnot, but you watch their documentaries and stuff, you may start to believe it because very tragic.
So you can tell when it comes to the wrestling business, it's not a very easy business to get into. Plus, the politics played it.
Well, not only that, but especially back in the day with drugs and everything. I mean, these guys were like,
the drugs were for sure catalyst.
Drugs, the ring rats,
Why you think David Wood did what he did and create that thing called Up Up Down Down? Because he realized, and the funny about it, Up Up Down Down was a big hit, but where Vince McMahon was doing it, he was too over control. He don't understand that business, how much of a huge business that's going to be.
Well, that's my thing. I think this is the biggest problem with Vince is not only that he is pretty much he doesn't know how to quote unquote evolve, but at the same time, he doesn't want no one to have their own walk in the business because the moment you start to even learn it, let alone even start to have a grasp of a good idea, because you know how much times you hear stories of wrestlers having an idea, they send it to Vince, and then Vince is like, nah, no way. But then again, he turns around and just takes out the trash cans like, this is actually pretty good. Like he does it almost every single time. And that's because he just don't want wrestlers to have the power. Like think about it. Like I remember Rock was like, hey, I should be making this amount of money. And Vince was like, wait, what? Why do you think that? Well, I remember the story. This. And then he was like, okay, well, look, you know what? Do this for me. Take 1 year away, learn the business, then come back to me. And then he made a new deal. And he's like, all right, cool, we'll sign that. It's like, give anyone a decency to think for themselves or make an idea for themselves. You don't want to take away. For instance, perfect example what I'm talking about. Zack Ryder. He changed his whole mantra. He's now Matt Cardone. He will not come back to WWE as Zack Ryder. He says, if you sign me, it's gonna be Matt Cardone. There ain't no other way around it. And that's the power play.
And they
When
never signed
guys
him.
are able to start,
And they never signed him to this day.
Part of the reason he won't, another reason they want to sign him, that's his real name. They can't copyright stuff on his real name. That's the thing. They can't.
well, yeah, but that goes back to not even that, but that also goes back to ownership, because again, it goes back to that power play. You can't take nothing from him because he's the one that built it.
The only thing I want to say before we
There you go.
close out, John Cena kind of reminds me of Undertaker a little bit. Because Undertaker has so much loyalty to Vince, he would never backstab them. Same thing with Cena.
Yeah.
So, Wallet, you want to go first? David, you're next, and Paul last, and I'll do an update.
Well, as far as the backstand part, I mean, I guess that may as well be somewhat true, other than the fact that he threw a very funny. Do y'all remember the time when John Cena talked about, hey, look here, you better make this right or I'll flip to the other corporation, brother? You remember that thing that he said in that primo? Okay, I'm just saying, like, yeah, I think John was willing to flip, maybe, quote unquote, or neither they just dick ride that because, they were trying to, throw a jab at TNA, however it is. But yeah. But nonetheless, look, at the end of the damn day, when it comes down to John Cena, one thing for sure, like him or hate him, his reign within the wrestling business is going to be most likely outmatched for sure. Because once again, one thing you got to give John Cena, there ain't no one, as far as I know, within one wrestling corporation, not merger, not nothing, just one wrestling corporation alone, that can say they has 16 world titles in one corporation. You can't say that about much people. Just can't. That's it.
It's my turn. I'll make it short and sweet. Learn the politics of the business. Understand who were making the shot, who were calling the shot. Then you understand why there was Billy and couldn't take over John Cena's place to begin with. It's sad to say a lot of business knew what Vince McMahon was doing. That's why AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, had to prove to Vince McMahon, I want to fit your mold to be big and sell a ticket, and they did that. AEW was exactly the reason why they came to existence. They were trying to prove that a different alternative in WWE. That's the actual aspect of wrestling. And right now, even AEW have calmed down from the bullshit, but still learning that there's so much more to what you think it is. They're not getting it now. They're trying to figure out what's next. So believe me though, now that you got Triple H, and it's sad to say, everything he took over, he been selling out far more than Vince. I know Vince been feeling like, man, I don't care, he sell out. He ain't me. No, he better than you, my nigga. Much more better than you, my nigga. He get it more than you, my nigga. That's why you shrink down. Anyway, that's my final thought. I got to throw a jab at him anyway, though. Deuces.
Yeah, like I said earlier, obviously, I think this Cena was again the right person that McMahon needed for that title period and run. And again, what he did to open up WWE to more people, more kids, to have more access, more merch. I got to give him credit for that. He was a perfect guy. But the only thing is, like I said, now I think a lot of stuff came maybe too late. Again, but that's what WWE does. They run these guys until they're, over the hill. And they're not, who are you developing as your new stars or your new replacements? But I think that, what a lot of these guys just want to ride the horse until they can't ride anymore. And I think you're almost near that. And I think it shows up in the product. So but again, a very consequential figure, and I would easily put him probably in my top, maybe in my top five champs. I would put him above Triple H. I would certainly put him above um, maybe not Brock. Well, yeah, maybe even Brock, because again, Brock basically wrestled once a year essentially at WrestleMania, and you wouldn't see him again. But Cena made TV every week, and he did the grind that a lot of these guys didn't want to do or thought they were too good to do. So I got to give him his props. I do.
All right, guys. Wrestling is going to have always these icons that we always going to say that we always going to remember. And John Cena is going to be the icon because 16 times and wrestled for how many years? You got to give the guys his dues when it is. But let's do a quick schedule update. Tomorrow, me and Paul are talking about. Actually, Paul, you want to do the one?
Yeah, we're talking about alcohol, and maybe get more specific, alcoholism. The global problem of alcoholism. So again, look at that from that perspective, and yeah. So looking forward to that combo tomorrow night on the Gray Area on the BMU network as well as Sparta HQ network, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Right here. And on Wednesday, we'll be talking about, actually, rephrase that. David and Wally are going to be taking Ghost in the Shell. Wally, Dave, you guys want to take a quick, whack at it really fast? Or let me just keep going.
I'll just say that will be an interesting conversation because Ghost of the Shell is a very unique franchise, but it should be interesting. That I would say.
And on Thursday, we're going to be talking about rebuilding a community. Step 2, progress. That should be an interesting conversation. And this one I've been looking forward for a while. So I know anime is usually on Wednesday, so I'm gonna steal a topic out of their hats into my favorite hangout show. We're gonna be talking about Robotech. Is it a classic anime series or not? On the hangout. That's what I'm gonna say.
Really? You want to tell our topic now?
Hey,
Okay.
my channel, my way. Fuck off down there.
Now you want to be like Vince McMahon or something?
Ah, shit. Here we go again.
Yeah.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
Wrong answer.
All right, guys. Wally, anything on your side?
Sorry, hold on. Yeah. Real quick. I know Marcus threw this in the comment section. I know he wanted this probably to be answered, but he asked this question earlier back when we were talking and going a little bit around the place. But he asked, who would have the better career, Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit? If certain situations where it was, I would definitely say Eddie probably would have the top over Chris Benoit personally. Again, you can't deny Eddie Guerrero's flair in the game. So yeah.
Before hang on one second. I want to bring this highlight. Sideways. I know you just came to the end, but you can rewatch this the whole show. We have some other wrestling stuff in, and we have some other topics you might be interested in. Please just subscribe because I think you might enjoy our home here. David, anything on your side?
No, I'm good. I already get my final
Paul?
thoughts.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, guys. As always, this was the Spartan HQ Network. I am Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter. Here's Wally, Mr. President, Black David, aka Old Groot. As always, stay fresh and safe.
AKA Black Heart.
Oh, fuck off down there. Jesus, you always make a comment and everything.